Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So I love this story. One of my subscribers sent me this by email, if I'm not mistaken, or by Facebook. He was like, hey, I don't know if you've seen this or not. I don't necessarily watch regular mainstream news, so I had not seen it, so I am fucking happy that he sent it to me. I did a story yesterday about the release of information in the New York Times on the Pentagon's black budget program to study UFOs. This was this kind of threat detection thing, looking at vehicles that are doing these amazing speeds and maneuvering in the air. They can't necessarily find any propulsion system on the device itself, and yet this thing is going at remarkable speeds and everything else. So that was the story itself. That story came out in the New York Times. Fast forward today on CNN. CNN covers the story. And they asked the guy who was ahead of that program. The first part is this kind of awesome thing where she's asking the question. She's like, I don't know how to handle this story. I am getting an actual story about UFOs. This guy's talking about black budget programs. And she asks him the question, do you believe that these things, do you believe that we're being visited from somewhere else? Look at the guy's answer. Fucking love this.
Pentagon military official who ran the covert government program up until this last November, Luis Elizondo. Luis, thank you so much for your time tonight. I mean, first, tell us what the purpose of the program was and why it was so secretive.
Sure. The purpose of the program, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, was really designed to do just that. From a national security perspective, identify those things that we see, whether we see them electro-optically, we see them with radar, we see them as eyewitness reports, through a myriad of different ways and avenues that we receive the information, and try to ascertain and determine if that information is a potential threat to national security, in a nutshell.
So what did you find?
Well, we found a lot. I think it's probably been a little bit mischaracterized in some of the social media you see and what people put out, because a lot of times when we don't have a lot of information, we tend to fill in those gaps with what we think is logical. And there's still, by the way, a lot we really don't know. I think what's important is that we have identified some very, very interesting, anomalous type of aircraft. Let's call them aircraft. Things that don't have any obvious flight surfaces, any obvious forms of propulsion, and maneuvering in ways that include extreme maneuverability beyond, I would submit, the healthy G-forces of a human or anything biological.
Explain that part. Some of this, man, I fucking love this. So I need to explain some of this. What he means by this is, and I have to be honest, I'm immensely incredulous about this. People have been investigating this stuff for the past 60, 70, 80 years. This was not recent. This is not new. I do not believe for one moment that the United States government was not investigating this. Paul Hellyer, the Canadian Defense Minister, kind of brought this point out, saying the United States has a lot more information on UFOs than the United States has been letting on. I honestly don't understand these unimaginative people who... Let me show you something. Actually, I'm going on a tangent. What he means by that is some of the phenomena that people see, whether you're talking about radio operators, whether you're talking about cops, whether you're talking about military guys, whether you're talking about people who are in these companies, whether you're talking about people who work for NASA, there's a host of whistleblowers. People have come out and said, yes, this is what we've been saying. This is what we've been looking at. This is the phenomena that we've been coming across. They've been all over the place. So, you know, they're like, I don't understand why nobody has ever said anything about this. No, that's called cognitive bias. That's called you closing off certain areas that you don't necessarily, or that they've told you are bad thoughts. It's implicit. They don't bring it up in mainstream news, and if they don't bring it up in mainstream news, it seems incredible. Well, there's a lot of shit they don't bring up in mainstream news. My point in saying this, though, is this very specific point where he's talking about the speeds and everything else and that a human being. He's saying because of the forces, the things that these craft are doing. Some of these craft are going at these remarkable speeds and stop on a dime and then go in a completely different direction. Any other human being, or any human being, would be crushed by that particular G-force. Pilots, when they're in these devices, if you've noticed that that circulotron or whatever that thing is, for centripetal force. Well, the pilot usually blacks out at a certain amount of G's. Well, imagine going at, you know, these Mach 10 and then coming to stop on a dime. The person turns to jello. Think back to Star Trek for the moment. When they're talking about inertial dampeners, have you ever thought word inertial dampeners? Do you ever know why they created that, what that was? When this ship is going at impulse, or these warp drives and everything else, and it comes to stop, it comes to, you know, inertial dampeners are the things that prevent those people from going splat. When that ship stops, and Captain Kirk doesn't go splat because of this nice little scientific contraption called an inertial dampener that ignores the inertial forces associated with that particular movement. Now, think of it, you're in a car, you make a, you know, fast turn at 40 miles per hour, and everybody in the car moves in a particular direction. What you're feeling on you, that's that particular force. They call it G-force, gravity, but they measure that stuff in G's. What I'm getting at is, under normal circumstances, if a pilot was going that fast and a pilot came to a halt, or a pilot made a sharp turn in that way, that pilot would be smushed in the side of his aircraft. Inertial dampeners, Star Trek. Now, he's kind of making this point that whatever these craft are, whatever this stuff is, if a person was inside that craft, that person would be crushed, unless that person is using a physics that we don't fully understand. That's the point. That's the point. I want to keep going. I know that's a tangent. I know that goes in a remarkably different direction. I love the story because I love the idea. Slightly terrified that the story is getting out, but I also love the idea that the story is getting out. I'll explain what I mean afterwards, but let's take a look at this guy. Let's let him finish.
Logical. Hypersonic velocities, low observability, positive lift, again, seemingly in defying the laws of aerodynamics. So people are talking. So do you think, I mean, you know,
but do you believe, you know, when you get that Navy pilot saying what he said, do you think that that was, you know, a UFO? To obviously, I don't have any other word to use, or that, or something else?
Sure, that's a great question. Keeping in mind, it's not just the pilot's testimony on an observation. Sure, when someone comes to you who's in charge of a multi-million-dollar weapon platform, who maintains a top-secret security clearance, who is paid and trusted by this country to go fight wars and to fly over cities with live munitions, and by the way, they're trained observers with millions of dollars invested in their training, yep. I would submit to you it's pretty compelling. But on top of that, it's not just the eyewitness testimony. It is actual electro-optical data and radar returns. It's also people like radar operators and air traffic controllers. So I think the discussion should be maybe a little bit broader than that. I think people are focusing just on 2 videos coming from a set of F-18s when really it's a lot more than that.
What's cool about that also is he's kind of making this point like, whatever you guys think, it's beyond what you guys are thinking. Like, people are just focusing on these 2 videos. No. The information goes far beyond these 2 videos. We've been looking at the stuff that goes far beyond just the 2 videos that these pilots are showing. I love that. I love that. It's like, whatever you thought, you're not thinking of it enough. It's more. I love that. Let it keep going. So
you know, recently, I guess it was in October, astronomers spotted what they say could be the first interstellar asteroid. You see it there, kind of that strange shape from beyond the solar system. What do you see when you look at that?
Well, you know, Ms. Burnett, I have to admit to you, when I ran this program, I was fundamentally looking at, my colleagues looking at 2 things.
Yeah.
What is it and how does it work? We have deliberately stayed away from going down the rabbit hole of who's behind the wheel and what are their intentions.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have a lot of feelings towards that and are very emotional about that. And what I wanted to do is to allow the data to speak for itself and then use that data to inform leadership, senior DoD leadership, about the potential threat that these type of technologies pose to national security, especially over any type of controlled airspace that we might have. So I'm not trying to be evasive in any way or vague with your answer, but
yeah. Well,
I think there's a lot of possibilities.
Look, and I know you think it's important. I know you think that the government didn't take the threat seriously enough. So let me just ask you point blank the question. Do you believe that life from somewhere else, while you ran this program, came here, visited, observed?
I will tell you unequivocally that that through the observation, scientific methodologies that were applied to look at this phenomena, that these aircraft, we'll call them aircraft, are displaying characteristics that are not currently within the U.S. inventory, nor in any foreign inventory that we are aware of.
So I know you're being clear, but I mean, the answer is yes.
I can't speak on behalf of the government. Obviously, I'm not in the U.S. government anymore. My personal belief is that there is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone.
I love that. You have no idea how much I love that. You have no idea how much I love that. No shit, Sherlock. It's like, no shit, Sherlock. Man, I love that interview. He's calm down. I love this. I just love this. I don't know why I love this. I love this. I got really interested in this topic all at once, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Like, intensely interested to a ridiculous degree. I love this. So there's a few awesome parts to that. Based on my determination, based on my understanding of it, and based on the scientific methodology, if you're asking if we were being visited, yes. Yes. This is not me making shit up. This is not me saying people are putting things in other people's asses. This is, I am looking at the aerial phenomena that we're catching on video. I'm looking at the Black Vault stuff, and I am telling you, yes. The second awesome part of that, outside of the yes, that's we got it, ladies and gentlemen. You have no idea how many ufologists are out there who's listening to that and screaming at their camera, no shit, and yes. This validates our existence. We've been screaming this at the top of our lungs, and this validates our existence. So that's the first part. The second part is the threat analysis. That's the part that fascinates me. So we intentionally refuse to go down the rabbit hole of what's in those items, meaning what's flying them. If you have something that's flying in your airspace, what's in the thing that's flying in your airspace? And if you're doing this idea of a threat detection, don't you have to some degree ascertain what's in it? How can you not, like, how can you do a threat detection if you're not necessarily trying to make this determination, okay, what's in that thing? And that's assuming he's being above board. I don't assume he's being above board. I don't assume any of this shit is above board. What I assume is the U.S. government, for whatever particular reason, is making the determination to allow certain people to leak information out to the public. And it's not even a leak. It was a Pentagon thing. It was on the Pentagon's books at this point. So it's not even something where you can say this never took happen. This wasn't information given to some kind of UFO guy for the guy to come out and the government shaft the guy after the fact. None of this stuff to leak it into the public consciousness. This is the New York Times. And this is CNN. Might as well say state media coming out saying, yes, I believe they're UFOs. Not just UFOs, I believe that there's something visiting us from somewhere else. In my head, I have this "we got him, ladies and gentlemen" moment, that the George Bush one, where George Bush comes out and, we got him. If he's right, and if these craft it's not us, it's not somewhere else, it's something else coming from off our shores, and by off our shores I mean off our planet, and that thing that's coming from off our planet has the capacity to get here. 2 questions arise. A, it had the capacity to travel across intergalactic space. That's the first point. Or interdimensionally. So whatever capacity it has to get from point A to point B, we don't fully understand it. That's the first point. And the second point is, if it has the capacity to travel from an intergalactic space, and if it has the capacity to traverse dimensions in this way, to get from point A to point B at this kind of remarkable speed, there is no defense. There's no defense. There's nothing you have in your bag of tricks. There's no pop gun, there's no rifle, there's no nothing. There's no nothing. If that thing wanted to harm you, that thing could have snuffed you out long before you got to a particular level of sophistication in regards to technology to even know it was there in the first place. Threat is something I don't necessarily see as being a big deal. The threat part, to me, has honestly more to do with us. The reason I said this is somewhat terrifying, it's not because of whatever that is. It's because of what we are, if that makes sense. How do people react? If you notice, his response to this thing was, well, we try to avoid going down the rabbit hole because we know people have feelings about that. What he meant was people would flip the fuck out. There are ideas of religion, there's ideas of science, all of these things get overturned and all of these things become up for grabs. And people have this very strong belief, at least based on our history on this particular planet. When people are coming to your shores, be careful. Be careful. I love this. I love this. My fellow human beings terrify me with news like this, but I love this. I don't quite understand why this doesn't get more airplay. This seems to be the largest story in the history of stories. I don't understand why this wouldn't necessarily be more explosive than this. One of my subscribers, Luca Clemente, sent me this. This is Saturn, and this is us. That little dot, that blue dot in the cosmos. Earth is not a default. Earth is just one planet of many planets in an ocean of galaxies and ocean, all this stuff, an ocean of stars. We're flying through space at this very moment. Of course there's going to be other things out there. And of course there are going to be other planets. And it takes this immense belief in this kind of God-driven universe that only one Earth with only one species, with none of that stuff makes sense. It makes more sense where life grows pretty much in anything. I mean, they found life in like volcanic pits and whatnot. So yeah, I would full well imagine that, yeah, there would be life beyond our shores. The question was always whether or not that life could get here. And this is a guy who's working on a black budget project in the Pentagon saying yes. He's answering yes. I am more interested in the question of who's in there, not necessarily their capacity to get here. The technology, don't get me wrong, the technology is fascinating to me. I am more interested in what's in it. What's in it? What's in it? What's in it? Who is it? I said before, man, if I used to always make this joke, like if a craft landed, I would hug whatever comes out that craft and say, what's happening, space brother? But he kind of has a point. People don't necessarily take news like this all that well. And if we look at what's going on this planet right now, do you really want this news to come out during the Trump presidency? But look, for that matter, I wouldn't want it to come out through either of these presidencies. I don't trust us. That's what it boils down to. And because I don't trust us, the way the information comes out, yeah, I don't trust us. Let me say it that way. Because I don't necessarily trust us, it's hard to foresee the reactions of how people are going to react with this particular information. And it's hard to even know if what's being leaked is being honest, being earnest. How can you trust it? It's politics like everything else. So, I will leave it at that. I'll put the link to the video for CNN, but this was fucking amazing. So, alright guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support through Patreon. Thanks guys.